thank you, friends, for joining us today. And it's, as I said, that we are celebrating the big Butterfly Month, which is happening for first time in our country. And there are so many organizations who have pitched in to celebrate this. And we just took an opportunity of sharing our business model. You know, for people who know me, they would know that I started my career with BNHS. I was working with BNHS for almost 22 years, and after that, I just thought that I should take a break and get into a different sphere. And that was a time when the corporate social responsibility law had just been launched in India, and I was very keen to dabble with this field because that was something challenge for me. I found that there was a very new challenge awaiting, and I just took the plunge. I left my job in BNHS, which is, of course, people might think was a crazy idea, but I don't have any regrets. It's 6 years now, and I started a company called Ladybird Environmental Consulting. Now I'm sharing our work. I've named it as a Project Butterflies. All the works that we have undertaken under this category, that's a banner name. So I'm going to share some of the examples of how we have worked on this and how I actually went about. Maybe that could inspire some more of you to get involved with such kind of business model. So a bit about Ladybird Environmental Consulting. So I started it as a social enterprise because I was very keen to work in the field of environment and the social cause, because coming out of BNHS, you can't really think very commercial. It has to be a social aspect, has to be there. So that was very much in me, and I wanted to make money, but by protecting environment. So therefore this company was started, and we started working in the domain of where the corporates are there, the corporate social responsibility. That was our domain, and we felt that biodiversity should be everybody's business. That was a mantra we believed in. So we started in 2014, and when I set out, I have no clue what I'm going to do with this company and how I'm going to get into the CSR domain. Absolutely no idea. Believe me, people might not believe that, but believe me, I was very, very, a NGO person trying to dabble in a corporate world. I was that naive. So when I started talking to people about CSR or what, and I found that everyone was very much into tree plantation. So CSR means tree plantation, at that point of time, because CSR was new law, and it was world's first law that came in India. So we started, and I still remember one of a very good friend of mine now, but he was also a corporate guy at that point of time. He just told me that, and I was so, against tree plantation, because it was appearing that tree plantation is such a mundane job and such a mediocre work. Because, in BNHS, if you talk about tree plantation, people will sush you because it's nothing great. There's no conservation. There is nothing great about doing tree plantation. Every Tom, Dick, Harry can do tree plantation. That kind of perception was there about tree plantation. And I was carrying the same perception. And this perception, with this perception, I never included tree plantation in my bouquet of services. So it was always something else, always about research, always about education, but nothing about tree plantation. And this friend of mine, who is, of course, I said he's a friend of mine, he told me, he just gave me one advice. He was a CSR manager at that point of time in one of the companies. I don't want to name him. He told me that, Shubha, you have opened an ice cream parlor and you have all other exotic dishes, or sorry, exotic flavors, and you are telling me there is no vanilla flavor ice cream? So vanilla is like a basic flavor which has to be there. So you need to have a vanilla, and then you can have add-ons. Yeah, and I was here with a parlor with all add-ons and no vanilla ice cream, and I really took a cue from what he meant to say to me. He wanted to tell me that you need to get into what others are doing, but see how differently you can do. So when it was decided that, okay, we should get into tree plantation because that is where the CSR funds are available. So how do we stand different? How do we become different? So being a biodiversity professional, because anybody who's been working for BNHS for such a long time, I don't think so there will be anything else but a biodiversity professional, because you get exposed to everything. So I was also a biodiversity professional, so I thought what different I can make. And butterfly gardening was such a common thing. Even by that point of time, we were creating butterfly gardens even in CEC where I was working. But I never thought that I can actually take that small model of butterfly garden into a larger scale. Yeah, so that's what I started reading more and more about how different types of plantation could be done. And actually this is not my concept, okay, but when I started doing online research, I came up with this Miyawaki concept which everyone was using. And what really fascinated me was that it was the model says that you can create a forest in a smaller space in a shortest time. I think that was the key for it, and it made me realize that yes, this is what I wanted to do. So we came up with this model. So Miyawaki model is more of starting from a seedling level. It needs, if you want to do a project on Miyawaki model, you need to have at least 10 years time on hand to see the entire forest coming in. So we thought that we won't have that kind of time. So how can we do a small adaptations? So we started using the same method, but we did our adaptations. I'll talk more about it as I move further. So we started talking about ecosystem plantation approach. And we chose butterflies. There were two reasons why we chose butterflies. One, my background is like I'm an entomologist, so I have an insect background, right? That's one. And Isaac Kiemka, who is my partner, so he is known as a butterfly man, and we together had started this. He was, of course, he was not in the front, not in the driver's seat. I was the one who was driving this entire initiative. But I knew that I can very well leverage with his brand value of butterflies. And to be very honest, selling butterflies is very easy. Then selling any other insect. So, though I am very much fond of moths, but I can honestly confess, I can never sell moths to whomsoever it is, because it's very difficult to convince anybody that they should really do something for moths. For butterflies, because we have this childhood connection with butterflies. Besides all the ecological values what a butterfly can bring in, but there is a childhood connection, and everybody is able to understand butterflies. So I think that's where we started leveraging on butterflies. Though with butterflies, we started bringing on bees, birds, even bats. So I used to call this top four: bees, butterflies, birds, and bats. All the top four pollinators. We used to do a plantation plan which can benefit every one of this. But these are all my hidden agenda. The only one which whom I used to promote was butterfly, because it was very easy to break a barrier with anyone with whom I'm talking about it. As I said, that because we had a background, we had a foundation, we are known for the work, so it was easy for me to get into this field. Without that branding, or without that track record what myself and Isaac has with BNHS, I think without that knowledge we could have never succeeded in what we are doing today. So certainly I call myself, everybody I think who has started the career with BNHS, they call themselves as a product of BNHS. So what are the highlights of my project Butterfly? So what is this entire concept? So one is that, so when I was working in BNHS, so the kind of butterfly gardens we were planning were barely of 60 plants, 70 plants. Nothing, I never thought about a scale. And when I started talking to corporates, and they used to ask me, how many plants you can plant? I would say, how many means? He said, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000. How many thousands you can plant? I said, wow. I said, I've never worked with that kind of scale also, so I can't really think. So eventually I started doing my own. I did all the, I didn't have the ground experience, I must say. I must confess that part. And again, at every point of time, I met this one person who used to give this, thought for fodder, what we say, food for thought. And that used to define my further journey. So when I got my first project, that time this person who knew me already that I was from BNHS, he said, Shubha, this is not your cup of tea. You are used to sitting in the CEC building, giving orders. you have not worked in the field of planting plants and working under sun and all that. He said, this is not, you may not really succeed. You should hire people who can do this. Actually, that was like, बोलते ना दुखती रग पे हाथ रख दिया. Yes, that was my pain point. I had no experience of plantation whatsoever of a large scale. But I took a cue from his taunt also. And I said, if this is the knowledge I'm lacking, then why not acquire it? So believe me, my first project, which I did, was for Tata Motors. And we took on a project which had a plantation of nearly 24,000 saplings in 3 different locations. And I took this as a pledge that I will work in the field. I will actually get involved at the labor level to understand what kind of ground realities are there. So I actually experienced that, and I made a point that thereafter nobody should say that Shubha, you are not suitable for this job. So Tata Motors gave me my first break. I'm really thankful for them, and because they were the first one to believe in my idea. So obviously I suffered some setbacks, some failures in some of my sites, and they've been very, very cooperative. So I wanted someone to believe in my idea, and Tata Motors did that because they wanted to encourage entrepreneurs like me. So yes, without that break, we wouldn't have succeeded where we are today. So after doing several projects, we actually came up with this entire set of, a profile of what kind of project butterflies usually do. So when we started talking about numbers, and that's where we started coming up with these categories of butterfly gardens, butterfly habitats, and butterfly parks. So mostly the butterfly gardens and butterfly habitats category, this is all the category is that I have created this category. This is not some scientific category or something. I just made up because it was very easy to communicate with my clients. So I used to get clients with variety of quantities. So, like it becomes so used to me that someone says that, okay, I want to do tree plantation, I'll just say, kitna karna hai? That kind of, so it always starts with number. So number wise, I started saying, okay, anything under 1,000 we can consider as a butterfly gardens because they are smaller scale, small area is needed. Then there is no landscaping, no study material, no signaging, and it is a very short project. So CSR projects are supposed to be of 3 years. So anywhere from 1 to 3 years. So it was up to the client to decide what duration they want. So it was a shorter project. So we decided shorter projects as a butterfly gardens. Longer projects of larger numbers going up to 25,000 plants is what we categorize under butterfly habitats. Now here it was like a huge area we used to undertake, and then the project used to minimum is 3 years. 3-year project. And what we were promising, this is a very funny aspect I should share with you. So anybody who is in working with corporates, they would know that corporates are fond of numbers. Yeah, they are all numbers. And one of the reasons why tree plantation has stick with corporate world because it is measurable and it is visible. Either a plant is surviving or it is dying. Yeah, so it is measurable and it is very much visible. It is not a black hole where you don't know what's really happening. So therefore, not much of since it is measurable, only component in environment that is measurable. Therefore, they put more emphasis on it. So when I used to start talking to people that okay, we will do plantation which will attract butterflies. So they used to ask me this. I remember this. I was interacting with one personal in Hindustan Petroleum refinery, in Mumbai. He asked me a very simple question and very innocently. I really felt like laughing and I couldn't laugh it off. But he said, अगर हम 3,000 पौधे लगाते तो कितने बटरफ्लाइज आएंगे? I said, what? 1,000 लगाए तो कितने आएंगे? 3,000 लगे तो कितने आएंगे? 5,000 लगाए तो कितने? So I said, this is not a factory that you put so much of raw material and so butterflies are the output. So, but they said, see, look, I have to convince my bosses that after doing this project, I'm going to get so many butterflies. So you better give me some numbers. And that's where I felt that it's very difficult to convince somebody that okay, in natural world things don't work like this. But yet you have to answer them. If you don't answer them, you just lose it. You don't get the work. Then I have to come up with assumptions. Then we used to say, okay, your neighboring area is having a potential of this many species, so the chances are that you might see so much of. So when I started my projects, that time I had no assumptions to work on. But eventually when I started working, then I started having these assumptions. So therefore, in a butterfly garden projects, which is usually smaller project, usually concrete area with no green cover around, we found that there could be an increase of 5 species. Whatever has been existing there, we said, okay, plus minus 5 is what butterflies can increase. And as the habitat started, bigger habitats come, so the numbers have gone from 10 to 15. In fact, we have records of crossing the species, more than 30 species in our project time. So this measures we have to come up to show to the corporate. Now there was one more client whom we started attracting was basically zoos. The government department, the forest department, especially the zoo sector, who had the requirement of setting of butterfly parks. They started approaching us for butterfly parks, and here the ball game was completely different. It is not a corporate money, it is not a CSR, it is just that it is a requirement and they have to create. Now here again we had to come up with some specifications. Okay, up to 2 acres you need a land for a butterfly park, and then you need signages because education, visitor engagement is very important. Landscaping is very important because it is going to be like, it has to be aesthetically designed because visitors are going to come in. So we used to engage a landscape architect in butterfly parks. And usually the butterfly parks projects, we don't take it on as a turnkey projects. Like turnkey means not from scratch to the end, we don't take on, we just do the consultancy project because government has their own ways of doing things and they have own manpower, own vendors. So we just advise them. So they are usually short-term projects. And the butterfly diversity is also like based on whatever potential is there. So we usually tell them. Unfortunately, in butterfly parks, there is no monitoring component for us because they don't engage us beyond that point. They just want us our consultancy in setting up. Later on, the monitoring is completely taken care by them. So we don't really have figures that how it actually impacted a butterfly park after we worked over there. So this is just specifications of our sites we work. Okay, now I just told you one side of story. There is another side of story which is the most toughest part of it. So one is that we can find a corporate who's interested in doing plantation, but where to do plantation? Whose space? So the space is also we need to provide. So I realized that space was is if I have a space, then only I can actually approach a corporate for setting up. So that's where I started using my entire network. Fortunately, I had worked extensively with NGOs across the country. I had worked. I connected with my NGO network, and I started connecting with people who were having some kind of space, and we can create an asset for them in terms of a butterfly garden or a butterfly, habitat. And mostly schools and colleges, they were also one of our target groups for, as a site partner. So we had to identify a site partner. Ladybird being a company, we were not getting the funds. We were not entitled to get funds directly into the company because the CSR law says that the funds needs to go to a NGO. So if we are working, wherever we were working, we were always looking for an NGO partner. An NGO partner, someone who is locally very active and can actually help us with the execution or monitoring or whatever help we need. Because we can get the project to them and then they will assign us the job and we will do the job for them. And this is done in a completely know of the corporate. It is not something very hidden. It is almost understood because corporates also understand that they need professional agencies such as us because NGOs are not really at that point of time. I'm saying, okay, NGOs are not really trained to really give that kind of project reports, give that kind of the proficiency or the time management, project management. All these kind of areas is where usually NGOs are scored down. Many of NGOs have this problem. So we used to identify not only a site partner, we used to identify an NGO partner also. And once we find a site partner and NGO partner, then we used to make a proposal and then we used to go and approach a corporate. Because when I go to a corporate, then I tell him that, okay, look, I have a space, I have an NGO partner. All I need is your money. So if you give money, this project happens. So I think our clients found more value in it because their job of hunting a NGO or hunting a site was actually lessened because we took care of it. And I was at a benefit, or rather Ladybird was at a benefit, because we had a very good network, we had a very good we have a very good social media presence. And people who have been following me on Facebook, they would know that so often I keep on putting this appeals. Do you know a place here? I want to create butterfly gardens. I'm looking for so and so person in so and so area. Do you know anyone? Can you recommend someone? So we worked on extensively on networking model. Had Ladybird had thought that they should be the one who should be doing everything, and they should be the one who should pocket the entire profit, then I don't think so we would have reached where we are today. We believed in sharing our profits also. So with the NGO partner, we shared the profit. We created a stake for them. You can imagine this entire groundwork was done by us. Yet the NGO partner was getting just very much, benefiting without doing much of the work, much of the legwork at all. But we were okay to having this kind of partnership. And so that was there. And then we started looking for the corporates, when we got the funds. And one of the corporate requirements, this is something everybody should remember if they want to work with corporate, is that if you can create corporate employee volunteering opportunities, and not to really, you know dismiss the fact that, oh, उनको क्या आता है, उनको क्या मालूम है, never. I have seen NGOs with that attitude, and obviously they have now never got that CSR funds also. So if you think that the corporate employee has no role to play in your project, then probably your project is not suitable for them. As simple as that. So can we create opportunities for a corporate employee to volunteer? Because in CSR law, again, this is a very important part of CSR law. If you are not aware of it, employee engagement. The CSR law mandates the company to engage their employees in the project work, in the CSR project work, and whatever time the volunteers spend in the project work is considered as a CSR spend. Now, what is CSR? People who don't know what CSR is, so CSR is a law which government mandated for corporates, listed companies, of course, who are having turnover of like the profit of 5 crores and above. So they are supposed to spend 2% of their profit in social causes. And in social causes, there are almost 11 topics in social causes. There is only one topic, one theme that benefits environment, that is environment only. Rest everything is not meant for environment. Rest is all meant for human beings. So so it is a very small window for us to operate on. So how do you get this? So the 2%, so if their employees are working on the project as volunteers, so that amount of money is shown as spent, so that get deducted from the 2%. So therefore this become a very important part of all my projects. And I'll tell you, all this knowledge which I have gained, I didn't have it, or I didn't acquire it by myself. I learned it from my CSR partners, the corporates with whom I work. These CSR managers have been so helpful for me in actually devising my strategy, in actually devising my execution plan, budgeting plan, whatever, they were ready to guide me and train me literally. So I literally got trained by corporate guys in this domain. And that's the reason I felt that I should share this kind of knowledge with you people also, for especially those who don't have an experience of this field, and they might think that they want to venture into this field. So this is what I developed a model for myself. Okay, so I always had this component of employees coming and working in the site, whatever small work they can do. Now, as I said, the corporates are all about numbers. So what are the numbers we were to show them? So I used to show them the before and after scenario, which is a standard assessment tool which any project manager uses. So every quarterly we used to do this plantation survey. How many plants are surviving? How many plants died? How many butterflies were seen before and how many butterflies are seen afterwards? So we kept on mapping this graph, that how the butterflies, we were only measuring butterflies because that is what we promised, though other biodiversity also got increased, but that was like a bonus. But butterflies were the indicators. So we went by the butterfly numbers, and we were working hard to show that these numbers increase substantially every time. Yeah. And I can tell with absolute ease that we have been successful in increasing butterfly species diversity in all the sites that we have worked, all the sites that we have worked, with guaranteed, I can say, because we have the data with us. And because I had a background from education, so I was very keen of bringing the education component. Now, corporates don't really expect this because they are only concerned with plantation. So it is like, they said, okay, you do plantation. I'm saying that, okay, plantation के साथ butterfly free मिलेगा. Yeah. फिर butterflies के साथ हम थोड़ा awareness भी कर लेंगे. So I used to just take a bit and bit more from them so that, we do this holistic project, not that just an isolation project. So I'm very keen on doing a very holistic project. I like to engage local communities. I like to engage local authorities. I like to engage whoever the local stakeholders are there. Without them, if we do a project, it is in isolation and it doesn't create that kind of impact. So we started creating awareness programs on butterflies exclusively. We used to get the school groups, local skill groups to our sites and create the butterfly awareness. So that is one way we do. And we exit the project when we show the guarantee that the site has survived and it is thriving when we leave. That's another story, that if the site partner is not continuing to maintain the place and the place has deteriorated thereafter, that's a different story, because this has also happened in our experience. Okay. So far my record is that we have created in 5 years time 27 butterfly zones, I call. There are 4 butterfly parks, there are 9 butterfly habitats and 14 butterfly gardens, and in 7 states we have worked. So my starting project was with Tata Motors, and I think they gave me, as I said, it was a stepping stone for me. And after that project, nobody ever asked me question why butterflies and why this model that you have chosen, because they already saw the results. So thereafter it became very easy. So it was like, regularly people will write to me, Shubha, I need to set up a butterfly garden for this many plants. Can you help? It became that convenient for people to write to us, because we constantly kept on writing. People who are following Ladybird on Facebook or other social media platforms, we continuously keep writing of what we are doing, because it is very important. If you're in a field of environment, now you have to talk more about your work than any other field. You have to blow your trumpet, because you can't wait for people to appreciate you, because environment is a field that is not really taken at that priority. Yeah, so I always do it. Whatsoever people may be having a different opinion about it, but this is what I believe in. So I'll just show you some examples. Some of the I would say these are like my star projects. I'm very proud of them, because the way we worked on it and the way we brought out results in it. This was one tribal school in Jawar. Jawar is a dry zone in Maharashtra. There you see this school. I'm just taking my pointer over here. This is the school building. When we exited the project, that time I'm talking about. But when I visited this place, when the project was about to set up, there was nothing, there was no greenery around it. And it's completely open, barren land was there. Yeah. And we thought that how about we create a green envelope for the school, for the tribal children. So this is how the land was. You can see, this is how the land was. And then we started doing plantation and we transformed it. And one of the challenging side of this place was this one entire area. This area was completely a rock bed. This whole thing was one rock. So there is no way you can do any plantation. So here we created the elevated platform. You see below the after picture I'm showing you. We created an elevated platform and we started doing the plantation, and it worked. And this is the success of this project lies in, I'll tell you, many aspects of this project actually made us believe that it was more than butterflies what this project was about. So besides increasing the butterfly diversity of this place, what really also happened that the soil quality of this area improved. Because their soil quality had improved, the school started a kitchen garden, and the school was already having a midday meal program going on. So the kitchen garden supplies were going to the midday meal. Food was getting cooked. Children became more. The attendance level improved. The headmaster told us that earlier children used to, because it's a tribal school, children will just come and go as per their wish. So he said that the school children's attendance improved because there was so much of awareness about the butterflies. And as I told you that we keep doing awareness programs. So every quarterly when used to go, Isaac Kemkar, he himself used to conduct a butterfly awareness program, a lecture. We even donated his book to them. So there was this so much of buzz of butterflies among the school teachers and the students, so much that everybody was looking for more and more butterflies. We even gave them a how to study butterflies, how to study the life cycle. So students already had this project to work on. So there was so much, and the greenery around the school became so appealing. The temperatures inside the schools actually started coming down because it is on a plateau, the school was, and it was completely open during the summertime. So this, it was very unbearable. So people, the students, the teachers, they told us that now it is very pleasant for us to stay in the school. It is not very hot inside the school, and that's the reason the students attendance improved. More students taking more students actually doing butterfly observations in this place. And lastly, this is like a year ago it happened. We got to know that this school participated at a district level science competition, where the student presented the project butterflies to the in the competition, and the school won the first prize for that project. And that was like, like a highlight for us. We never thought that we are achieving so much more through butterflies, you know. So it is like, butterflies are just a mere excuse. Actually, you can do so much. So butterflies today have become like a tiger, you know. So when Project Tiger was launched, you all may be knowing this story, na? That when Project Tiger, when the tiger's population uh, protected, so that time Srimati Indira Gandhi was there, and she asked scientist people that what needs to be, shall we protect the tiger? And some great scientists told her that don't protect the tiger, protect the habitat. Tiger is automatically protected. So here, by creating habitats for butterflies, we are not only protecting the butterflies, but so many other things are happening, which is really like, we feel very great that our project was able to achieve so much. So this is just a small video which will show that how we did this project in Jawar. So that was the Tata Motors project. And this was another project in Bangalore we had set up. And so, after a Tata Motors project, we became I would say popular because one, we were talking about our project and many people started approaching us. Not necessarily government department, not necessarily corporate, even common citizens. They used to say, "Hey, can you create a butterfly garden for us? My so and so school is there, or so and so area is there." So that kind of networking had already begun, and this was one. No, I met one RFO in one of the training programs. Like I did one training programs in Dehradun, and he had participated in my training program, and he learned about my work. So when this is in Jaragbande Kaval Tree Park in Bangalore. He was heading this area, and when he was approached by a corporate that they want to do plantation, he readily diverted that person to me. He said that why don't you contact her? Then she will see what best could be done over here. So to earn that kind of faith of people, I feel that I'm really honored. I feel honored that people trust us so much and they believe us not only with their funds, with their place, with their name, everything. I think that's a tremendous responsibility that comes, and we try hard to maintain that. So this project was like in Bangalore there are several tree parks that were coming up. So there was this large areas which are under eucalyptus plantations, and the forest department was clearing all the eucalyptus plantation, and they were doing their native plantation. So they said, okay, we have one site, we can give you 2 acres land over there. You can do your butterfly project over there. So this was the land what was given here. You can see in the top one. It was in 2016 because they did this plantation. You can see in between the tree plantation is there. They said whatever open space is around, you can work on that. And when we exited the project this side, see, you can see how the site actually got transformed. But what was more, important for us to see was, look at this Google image which we took. So this was the area that we had worked during the project, and this was a control. This was a control area where the forest department was doing plantation. We can see all these white dots. They were all tree holes where the trees were planted. So they were doing all this kind of plantation. They did here also. But what really changed was that we created a habitat over here around the trees. So you can see the greenery of this side and the greenery of this side. Now here something else happened. Besides what we did in Jawar school side, something else happened. You know what happened here? One is that here the corporate was more generous, so they were willing to give more emphasis on awareness. So here is where we created butterfly stickers. I'll just show you some more pictures about it. But the highlight of this project was that when we left this project site, we saw a large number of termite mounds were seen in our plot, then fewer of them on the other side. And we were wondering that what does it indicate? That why so many of termite mounds are here and very less of them. Ideally, when you look at a termite mound, you might think, oh, they are going to cause the damage. But in a forest ecosystem, termite mounds are the soil engineers. They are the soil engineers. They are the one who do this soil ka hera feri, underground. So I was completely blank on the role of termites on this side. I went and I studied, and then to tell you a very simple, whatever this research is, but to tell you in a simple manner, that if you know what is succession is, how a barren land converts itself into forest. That is called succession process, right? So the species that come first, then the second species, and third species, are different types of species that keep on adding, and that's how the ecosystem is formed. So what really had happened that through our habitat, we actually expedited the succession process. We started the forest effect. The forest effect was started to taking place, and the first species which indicates that this site is on the verge of getting converted into forest is a termite mound. That's where you start seeing termite mounds. And then we got a small study done. I engaged one of my my student who was there, course student. I told, can you do a small research work for me? Go and count how many termite mounds are there in this section and how many are there in this. So here he counted 12 termite mounds, and here he counted 72 termite mounds. So that was indicative that so this habitat creation is like expediting the forest creation. So that was, so every project was there something to teach us, and we learned so much, we benefited so much. I'll just show you a small video about that also. So this is how the area had transformed. We created butterfly stickers for children because school groups coming. This was a small orientation hut of the forest department. We decorated with by painting butterflies on it. So this RFO, who was this was his pet project. So he really wanted this place to come up nicely, and I tried my level best, whatever I was able to provide. So you can see the same orientation hut is here. This is the orientation hut, and you see there is absolutely no greenery, and here you can see it's all greenery. I'll show you a small video also about it. This is the site preparation video. You can see all the questions which are coming, people who are writing questions to me, I will respond to it once I'm done with my session. Yeah. So that was about the Jarak Bande, and this one is about one project which we did in Hyderabad. So that was the project. Right now, also I'm in Hyderabad, and I must say that this project, the Nizampet Lake project, helped us to back another project for which I'm today here in Hyderabad. So it is always like, if you do a good work and you are able to show good results, and which is measurable, which is visible, then obviously there is no dearth of work. And by grace of God, I would say that we are still very much in business with butterflies. So anyway, that was about the habitats that we created for butterflies. I just selected the ones that I wanted to talk about. Then we also, as I said, we also work on butterfly gardens, and small gardens. So now when we talk about butterfly gardens, it's usually smaller space and city spaces mostly. We got a space like this in Navi Mumbai, and that's where we created the butterfly habitat. Now these are all small time projects. Sometimes the project was even one day project. In one day the employees used to come and set up the garden, and then we used to manage the site for almost 1 year, and caretaker is appointed. So everything is like every cost we try to incorporate in it. And when we started first, corporates were not very keen to pay on the caretakers part of it, and that's what I said. As I told you earlier, we suffered some, we had some failures and setbacks in our projects for reason that wherever a corporate didn't agree for a caretaker and expected the site partner will take care. So we were at the mercy of the site partner to take care of the plantation, and we realized that the site partner had their own problems, their own challenges, and the plantation was never a priority for them. So later on, when we suffered these failures, we then keep our foot. We started putting our foot down, saying that if you give us a caretaker component, then only we'll take on a project. So anybody who comes to us for a one-time tree plantation or anything plantation related work only for one time, then I tell them either you pay me for 6 months maintenance fee, or I can't take on the project, because we have to put our foot down. Otherwise, what will happen? Because there are many people who have actually spoiled the market by just saying that, okay, you can plant a sapling just for 60 rupees, So by 60 rupees, what is happening? A corporate saying, oh, 60 means I can plan almost 10,000 at 60 rupees, and there is nothing, just one time cost. So we try to change that. Of course, in some cases we lost work also, but that's okay. At least we wanted to take care of the site. As long as we were able to, at least 1 year is what the minimum we require for ask from our corporate partners to support it. By and large, most of the corporate partners are they are very cooperative, and they understand from where we are coming. So we did this for Insitco. We did this as a small. I'll just fast forward some videos just to give you an idea. I'll just quickly go to the other side. So this site which I had just shown you, it was a proper concrete jungle kind of site, because all over from all sides of the site there was 2 highways, 1 railway station, and yet we recorded a good number of butterflies over there, and that place became popular for butterflies only. It was a just like Delhi Heart, this urban heart was created, and later on it became very popular for the butterflies, because the visitors started seeing so many of butterflies. So we usually have this combination of native as well as exotic garden plants, and not really many people feel that the lantana is invasive. Yes, the wild lantana is invasive, but the garden variety of lantana is not invasive. In fact, the garden variety of lantana is the most fussy plant. The mortality rate is very high, because what happens, the garden lantana doesn't make fruits, so there is no fruit production. So there is no seed dispersal. So there is no invasiveness in the species. So we are just taking the good part of this garden plants. And we have been questioned very often that, oh, why are you promoting, exotic species? It should be all native. See, native, yes, it is good. So if you're working in a forested area, we don't really bring in the garden variety, but most of our project site have in city areas. And in city areas, there is a good amount of garden plants which are already thriving, doing well. And also our concept was of that after 3 years when you exit the project, the site partners should not struggle to find a plant. Yeah. And I have seen people who go to forest and collect all the wild species and then they come and plant in the garden. I don't believe in that fund actually. I don't believe that way of working, of collecting what is there in the forest and then planting in our gardens. So we had our, as I said, that we have to come up with our own belief, with our own practicalness of what is easily available. Most of the wild species are not available in the nursery, which means that you have to prepare a nursery and grow the seeds grow the plants from the seedling. And project is barely of 3 years. When are you going to grow the seeds? When are you going to have the saplings? When are you going to show the results? Yeah. So we need to be practical at some point of time. So wherever possible, we have kept the species composition mostly native, but otherwise whatever commonly found garden plants are there, those are the plants we have used it. And by and large, so far there has been not a single case of invasiveness that we have witnessed in any of the habitats. So we have this, we use this combination of nectar and host plants, and we always go for perennial species. There are different types of butterfly plants which are seasonals. We have never incorporated a seasonal plant in our plan because, again, our client is not going to keep on giving money for replantation. Okay, because their mandate is simple, that okay, one time plantation and that's it. So here we thought that let's not get into the seasonals, let us do only the perennials, and so that there is no cost for the site partner. And plus we always chose for the species which were hardy, which were resilient, and which were like self-propagating, so they can propagate. The saplings can be harvested and new saplings, they can be planted in new areas. So there is no that the site partner has to go and buy plants. The previous site which I told you, Bangalore site, that site actually suffered a dry spell of nearly 3 to 4 months, and the entire habitat had dried up. And we had lost the hope that the plants will revive. And we always thought that our project, though started on a very good note, we are ending on a sad note, that the entire habitat just perished because there was no water supply from the forest department end. But by the time the project came to an end and there was some spell of rains, like in Bangalore, there are 2 rains, and there was some spell of rains. I was surprised to know that the local forest guard who was there, he just called me up and he just sent me some pictures to show that all the plants actually sprang back. They came back to life. So that's the resilience of the species. So we want to plant such species who can actually have a resistance to such kind of situation whenever it happens. So that was on basis of that we selected our species. And these are the butterflies which we have seen, and we always assume that if a butterfly starts laying eggs in a habitat, it means that the butterfly has certified that habitat. And if that has happened, that is sure shot means that our project is a success. And wherever we struggle to like right now, there is one site, again it's a new site in Jawar, where we are not finding any caterpillars, and we are suspicious that the site partner, which is again a school, is trying to spray some pesticides because they are growing some they are having a kitchen garden also. So I'm strongly suspecting that the principal is using pesticides, because I'm not getting any caterpillars, and I've been asking her that, are you spraying any pesticides? And she's saying, no, we are not, but I doubt. So we always look at caterpillars as an indicator that the habitat has been matured or not. And so caterpillars, so we always in our reports we always put pictures of what we captured in the field. And like one of my corporate client told me that, are you sure these are found in our site? I said, yes, this is from your site. So they were so excited to see the variety. So these were the resources which we had created, which I told you earlier. I'll skip this video. This is a video about again the Bangalore site, but I'll just I wanted to show you how the site was when we left the project, but I'll just skip it because for want of time. So as I told you that we were measuring the butterflies, and this is a measure I can show you that before we started the project, like in the Bangalore side, we recorded 18 species of butterflies, and by the time we exited the project, it was 45 species, which means that 27 species were added to the site because of the plantation that we did. In Jawar, it was 5, it increased to 37, we added 32 new butterflies to the site. In Mumbai, it was 11, it increased to 29, which means that we added 18. This is like a concrete area where we had worked. Again, here, the Navi Mumbai, only 4 species were recorded before the project. After the project, 24, and that's how. So this increase actually shows that the habitats actually work, and it is so easy. Like butterflies make conservation such an easy thing. It's only that if we do it right, we can and measure it and see the results. We are surely, making a difference to their populations. Okay, so yeah, so that was my experience of how I did this all projects and just sharing some highlights. Now comes the trade secrets which I mentioned that how I did it. So this part deals with that. So how we go about? So one is that the need assessment is what I constantly keep looking. So I'm very active on social media. I keep reading people's work. I keep reading local communities' efforts, especially. My interest is always in local community. I try to identify if any local community is trying to save a local water body or local forest, anything, because community power is tremendous. And I can tell you from my experience, corporates love community power. They love the community plays an active role in any conservation project. So we always look for community-driven things. So that's where the need assessment. I do my own need assessment, and I actually work out. I do a good amount of groundwork in preparing project proposals way in advance. I may prepare proposals for sites for which I have never got requirements also. But I just keep, because people keep writing to me, people keep approaching me saying that, can you help us? Can you help us? So much so that we started with a nomination process also. There is a nomination form. Anybody who comes to us, we send a nomination form. We say, ठीक है, इसमें data भर दो, जब time आएगा तो we'll let you know, that kind of thing. So then writing a proposal, then making this entire plan, the site selection, then also even before applying the corporate, seeking permissions is the most important part. If you're working with forest department, if you're working with local municipal corporations, whether the right permissions are in place. Because imagine you got the money and you got everything and the permissions hasn't come through, then it is a complete failure, and it also a setback, and also it tarnishes your reputation. So I've been very particular about all that. So you can imagine there's a good amount of hard work and legwork and groundwork goes before it becomes a reality. And once we get funding, now to get a funding, that's a different challenge altogether. How good your track record is, how good is your your online presence. Like I've seen some NGOs who don't really talk anything about on social media, their websites are not updated, they don't really write about what projects they've been working on, no updates are there. Corporates don't come to such NGOs because they actually search, because they don't want headache. Yeah, so they'll see that what is transparent. So as much transparent one is, so that helps us to get more clients. We have been always following that, and this process, what I'm doing today, I doubt if you have heard this from anybody else than me, because I have not attended any session where people are sharing that how they actually went about in doing it. At least in India, in foreign countries, many people do it, but in India, we are so much more. We work, especially environmental groups, work in silos. That is the sad part. Anyways, so once we get a project, what we do, we first do a site survey. This is something I insist my client, but my clients many times say, "Arey, kya hai? Kuch nahi usme rehta hai." I said, "No, I want to do a site survey." So site survey is there. Based on the site survey, we actually do the selection of what kind of plants. Now, this is another question we keep receiving from many of clients. Oh, why you have to go and do a survey? Just give us a list. That is good enough. I just said, I can send you the list. Then you'll have to sit and figure out what works well for your site or not. So we try to be as realistic as possible, as much possible. So we select this specificity accordingly. Then there's a ground preparation, whatever ground we are getting, whether that ground is good enough to work or not. Now, many people have this concept of that if you get a land which is already having some kind of vegetation, just rip off all that vegetation. Just dig up everything. Okay, add new soil, add new things. Okay, I don't do that. Maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong, whatever, but I don't do it. I feel whatever vegetations are growing, they are the natural vegetations. They have been growing that, they have been doing the role of any plant is been doing. So what we try to do, we try to intervene with the existing pattern wherever possible. Okay, small herbs and shrubs are here, that, but if there is a tree, so we always try to design in a such a way that the existing plant doesn't change. And that's the reason we were able to work, like in Mumbai, we undertook a municipal public park, and they gave the project because I promised them that I'm not going to change the layout of their existing garden, existing plantation, but I'm going to intervene the plants in a such a way that they just add value to their plantation plan and not really make a difference. So we always believe in hybridizing ourselves with whatever site is there. And then again, we don't really do entire digging out of it, whatever, because all butterfly plants, they don't really need more than 1 feet deep is what that they need. So we don't do entire. So it's not not a good, not a extensive civil work we get into it. Then we make a plantation layout. Now we are not architects, so we don't make an architect kind of drawings. It is not needed also, but just a plantation plan, which even our client can understand, which our team can understand, because I make a plan and my team executes it. Yeah. So it's a just a rough workout, whatever you are able to do it, and then execution of the plantation work. Even in the execution part of it, we are very particular of engaging local vendors, engaging local laborers, gender, managing the gender employment, hiring women and men together, not only men. So we always keep that kind of thing, because those business ethics are very important in a social sector when you're trying to work. And then education material development. So we do the education material development, whichever state we are working, we work in that language. And then every quarterly we have a plan, review plan, a project review, which we do it. In the project review, we do extensive, we actually go and count plants, believe me or not. We actually go and count them. So that is a very tedious process, and that's the time we actually engage a good number of volunteers. We call for volunteers, and volunteers come and help, and they count the plants for us. We do that is a review. We do it. Then we do this biodiversity surveys to assess how the biodiversity is improving. Then the local awareness program and the employee engagement program. So this is a component that goes as a package deal for our CSR projects. So site selection, what is that we look into the site? So one is that suppose if it is a butterfly garden project, which is very short project, where the funds are also very less, the corporate is not really giving you good large money. So we ask that we require the partner that you give us an arable land, a ground which is good enough. Not that I have to really take out entire topsoil and have to bring a new soil. So don't make me do that, because I don't have funds. So that's why the partnership. CSR projects are supposed to be partnership. It is not supposed to be a corporate money only to be used. So corporates need to be like, we need to demonstrate what the local community is going to contribute, what is the local administration is going to contribute. Until those partnerships are not shown, then the corporate is not keen to put their money, because they feel that what's the point that I put my money and nobody is really contributing anything. Nobody is putting their skin into it. Yeah. So so there is a concept called as PPP model. Public-private partnership. This is a popular model which the government has. Government wants that their department should get engaged with. They should work with civil societies like NGOs. They should work with corporates and also the local community. So CSR becomes a PPP model. So if you are developing a project and if you are able to demonstrate this PPP model, it will be surely the chances of winning it is much higher. So we look for an arable ground, then it should be open sunny patch. If people are giving that, many times people have given me a shaded area, and they said, "Yahan pe kar dijiye." I said, "Nahi hoga." And people who have still insisted that you anyway do it. And I told them, look, butterflies are not going to come. And still if they made us do it, and then they actually regretted that why didn't they follow. So we always advise our clients, but if they insist, we anyway do it, and we told them that we tell them that butterflies are not going to love this place. Yeah. So anyway, sometimes you have to do that also, because people have a different ideas. We have a different concept, but our clients usually have different ideas, and we don't know what they are trying to use that place for. So we don't want to question them also. So that is when. Then the water availability is very important. Then whether it is ease. There's no point in creating a butterfly habitat which is very interior, something people can't really go easily, making it accessible. And as I said, that we do the preliminary survey to understand what is already existing, how much of area should be disturbed, how much of area shouldn't be disturbed. And the criteria of, I think most of this part I have mentioned in my previous session, a previous part, but we usually make a list of 25 to 30 plant species and whatever is locally available. In many the challenge is that the species availability in local area. Yeah, so if it is Bangalore, so we need to find in Bangalore which nursery might be having the species that we have. In Mumbai, we already know. So like in Hyderabad, we are right now working. I found a person somewhere from Sikandrabad to ensure that they are getting my species. So finding the right nursery is also very important, and then coming with some practical solutions there. Then what is possible to procure, we procure, and we work with those species. I think I had shared this earlier. Yeah. And then we start with the ground preparation, and we have our own measurements. And I missed mentioning this, that in the Miyawaki format, the plants are planted in a very closely, because the funda is that if the plants are planted very closely, then they will struggle for the sunlight, and in that process they will grow onto each other, and that's how that thickets is created, and that's how the forest is created. So we also followed the same thing, and therefore we came up with this tree, herb, shrub level. So tree, herb, shrub level you create, and then you leave the climbers, so you create a small mini jungle in shortest time. And this is very rough layout. As you can see, we just make you can see the ground design, and you can see the design we make on the paper, so that we can explain to our client also what we are doing. We can explain to the site partner whose land it is. Land is there, so they need to really know what we are doing with their land. So we have to show this, that this is how we are planning, this is how we are going to plant, and the combinations are also very important. It is not a random combination. So what is a butterfly habitat basically? So butterfly habitat should fulfill butterflies all requirement. That is food, shelter, and breeding space. So if you can provide all this in one area, chances are that the butterflies will not leave that place. They usually prefer that place. So we always plant in a combination of nectar and host plants in combination, so that if they're done with feeding on the nectar, they may just go and lay eggs also, that kind of. So it becomes very easy, so that there is an energy conservation for butterflies. They don't waste much time in flying. And the execution, as I mentioned, that we usually engage corporate employees, and then we have to make this task very simple for them, so that they are able to do it. So we really make the plan, we place the plants also, because we can't afford they making mistake of putting one plant in some other place, and I can't expect them to remember the plant names. And so it becomes, and at a time 30 to 40 people are coming, and they are working in an entire area. How do you manage that? So what we do, we already take efforts in going and placing the plants, and we just tell them, just go and start planting wherever you find a plant. So it becomes easy, and it becomes faster. So there's a practical, we have to come up with such practical way of getting the job done. And signages, boards is what always we try to incorporate, but sometimes some clients don't want any signages, they don't want any branding. In fact, majority of our clients don't want any branding. This is what I've heard. So they don't avoid signages, but wherever possible, at least for butterfly gardens, we insist on having the signages, because that is where the educational value comes in. Because there's nobody to explain what this plant is about, but telling this plant is a host plant for a red PRO butterfly, it means a lot, for whoever is reading it. And I was very surprised that in 2018, I got an invitation from Taiwan. They actually saw our work online, and they were having this international symposium on butterflies and tourism, sustainable tourism, and they found that our model of working with butterflies under CSR, they found it very unique, and they invited us. So myself and Isaac, we attended. They invited, literally they took care of all our expenses, and I went there and I did a presentation of our works. So very much of the presentation what you're going through today is very much part of that symposium where I presented this. And we are also like, we have also developed butterfly products. We have butterfly mobile app, we have a butterfly sticker. So we are like, trying to communicate that as much about butterflies, making butterflies more fashionable, making butterflies more glamorous. And it's not all about just all this. So there is this Aichi targets. People who are from the environment sector would know there is an Aichi targets. We measure our success based on the Aichi targets. If you don't know about Aichi targets, you can just Google up. You can read about it. So our projects usually address at least 3 to 4 Aichi targets on habitat restoration, species conservation, or creating awareness. But for corporate, it's all the SDGs goal, the Sustainable Development Goals. This is a mantra for them. They always align all the projects with this. If you are able to align your project with their SDGs goals, then nothing like it. Though we are working in the field of environment, that didn't stop us from looking at the other goals. Improving air quality. Yes, our plantation actually improve the air quality. We are improving environmental education. We are improving livelihood, local by giving by engaging local people. We are providing livelihoods to them because the caretakers, the laborers, all are local people always. And so there's one goal for innovation also. Rejuvenation of public spaces is there, increasing green cover is there, and also supporting terrestrial biodiversity. So there is a goal for every aspect of our life, which has been covered in this SDGs. So if you can align it, so we align with this, and we show our clients that how our project has, because this helps them to present their CSR report. So I think on that note, I'll just stop my presentation. So sorry, I just went overboard a bit. So if you have any questions, you can ask me over here, because if I stop my video over here, so the session will end. But instead, I would like to answer you live. So I think Uli has asked me how long it took to prepare the open area in butterflies habitat, what school was participating. So butterfly habitat, as I mentioned in some slides, it all depends on the quantity of plants. I have created a butterfly habitat in one day also. Yes, by of course not including the groundwork, but people just planting it. If I get 50 to 60 people, they can just plant 1,000 saplings in one day also. But give and take, I would say if you are planting around 1,000 saplings, and if you work on a fast track mode, within 15 days you should be able to set up a habitat like that, including ground preparation, procuring plants, doing the getting soil and everything, all that kind of work. If you are not facing any hurdles, you can certainly fulfill. And school participating, I didn't get this part of your question. It's usually when the butterfly gardens, we make the schools to nominate themselves if they have a space and they're willing to take care of the plants after we exit the project, then we create a butterfly garden for them. So mostly the schools, I would say, are did you mostly, it's not that always underprivileged schools are there, because underprivileged schools don't have enough resources to take care of the gardens. So mostly the aided schools usually approach us. And if you're referring to the school which I was talking about in Jawar, so that is Divya Jyoti. Not Divya Jyoti. So that's Divya Jyoti is the current school with whom we are working. So there is a site called Dengachi Mate in Jawar. That is where this school is. So friends, any more questions if you have, please write to me here. I'll try to answer you live, and if you can give some feedback for me, that will be good. And this video will be available online on Facebook, and I think we will share it with the organizers also, and the organizer will upload it on YouTube. Srishti is asking, do you have any chart of the caterpillar? I think Shruti, there are books already available on butterflies which has this kind of information available. You can, or else you can actually go on this site. I found butterflies. They have listed all butterflies, adult as well as the caterpillars, in some cases eggs also. So that gives a very good. So I would suggest you go to that site, or you can buy books. There are books. Even Isaac Campbell's book is there, and now there is one more elaborative book which just came on the life history. I just forgot the name of the book, but there are this. But it's a very heavy book. It's not for children actually. It's a very big fat book. Yeah. But I suggest you go to I Found Butterflies. Go to that site, and you will find all the information that you have. Yeah. So, friends, if you have any more questions, I can take, or else I will. I will just end my session.